That rhythm.
Holy shit. Okay.
That rhythm. That rhythm. That rhythm.
Hey guys, and welcome to my second full out build guide. So this is my Gasmic Blight AD Castle Channeling Dark Pact build. So I set this up recently, and I just recently power leveled everything and got myself up to maps and level 71, so I can use all the gear involved with this. But I'm just gonna run through everything involved with this build and everything you guys would ever want to know about it. So I hope you guys check this out. I hope you guys like this video, and be sure to leave your thoughts and comments below. Alright guys, so the first thing I want to talk about is all the gear that's required for this build. This build does use quite a few unique items. Its total cost, it came out to around a little bit more than 26C or so. It's not terrible, but it is a little bit more than you would want to ever do for a league starter, so I wouldn't recommend it for that. But as I go through each piece of the gear, I'll throw up the cost that I was able to purchase the items at. Again, I play a normal Hardbringer League. I don't do hardcore, so for hardcore these items might be a little bit more difficult to buy. But I will throw up all the prices that I got them at. Now, the prices are always variable to change, so just be aware of that. But the first thing you want to do, the first one you want to pick up is an Apex Rage Opal Wand. This gives you increased spell damage, as well as adding flat chaos damage to all your spells. It also gives you chaos speed, or cast speed, as well as chaos res. On the downside, it increases your mana cost of skills. However, for our build, this is actually useful, and I will talk about that in the next section, or in our later section when I talk about the actual skill tree and everything involved with that. The next thing you want to pick up is an Unshatterable Archon Kite Shield. This is one of the unique Harbinger shields. The reason you need this is because of the increased damage while channeling skill, as well as the extra nice amount of elemental res and the nice health roll that you gain from this. It also grants you a nice skill, and I will talk about that in the next portion when I discuss the actual skills involved. Then you're going to run for a helmet. You're just going to run a basic evasion energy shield helmet. You're just looking for life rolls as well as just some extra, if you can grab some extra fire res on that, you definitely would recommend to grab it. Then you're going to need a Restless Ward Chrono Armor. Restless Ward, for our build, gives you a nice amount of life, a nice increased evasion energy shield. It also gives you increased movement speed per frenzy charge, and then it doubles the duration for your endurance, frenzy, and power charges. It also grants you life regen for your for every active endurance charge, which is very, very useful for our build, and I'll discuss that again later. The next thing is Allopathy Sorcerer Gloves. This grants us a level 22 Blight skill. It gives you increased damage over time. It also gives you a 10% increased area of effect skill and increases the hinder duration of Blight by 25%. So this is why we need this item. The last thing you want to do for boots, you're just looking for... I'm running armor energy shield boots because it makes it a little bit easier to socket gear, but you can always just run evasion energy shield boots and have no issue. But it's really up to you as far as that. As far as socketing is concerned, if you have the chromatics, it's no big deal. If you don't have the chromatics, it's a little bit easier to get some extra. It's a little bit easier to grab the extra sockets you need for your Wither Totem from this, so I would recommend using an armor and shield boots, and you won't take a big nerf to your movement speed anyways from it, so it's fine to run. It also gives you a little bit, you also have the chance of getting fire and lightning res from it, so it's a little bit nicer on that. And then you'll need a Winterheart Gold Amulet. This gives you increased dexterity as well as life rolls, and it also gives you the cold resistance and a nice amount of life regenerated per second while frozen. So getting frozen shouldn't kill you with this build, and you cannot be chilled, so that's very nice to have. The next thing you need is a Brawn Rat Mark Ring. This allows us to use our golem, and it also augments our golem. We're going to be using a stone golem in this build, but I'll get to that later. But this gives you increased spell damage as well as increased lightning damage, so this is a very useful ring to have. Next thing is a Kukuzaru Topaz Ring. This gives you lightning res as well as all stats, as well as life regenerated per second per level, which is extremely useful for our build because all of our build requires life regen. This also gives you mana regen as well as reduction in effective curses, which is really helpful for you. The last thing you'll need as far as gear is an Ascent from Flesh chain belt. So what you want to do is, this gives you a nice flat evasion roll as well as a nice energy shield roll and elemental res, so it's super nice to have. It also gives you phasing, which gives you increased movement speed, which is why you aren't hurt by running just an armor energy shield boots, because you'll have the increased movement speed while you're phased. Heading into our flask, we have a Witchfire Brew. This gives you a nice amount of increased damage over time. It also gives you the vulnerability buff, which is super helpful for damage over time builds as ours, which is ED, but also Blight and Contagion, all of those are involved. Next thing is an Overflowing Chalice. The reason for this is just a nice amount of increased damage. It also, the main benefit is that it gives you an increased amount of charges gained for other flasks, because Witchfire Brew and the last flask you're using, which is our Deodri's elixir, use up so many of our flask charges. You definitely want to run those two very quickly because they go through flask charges like that, and being able to regen them very quickly really augments your build very well. The last thing you're getting is a Deodri's Flask, and the reason you're getting that is because it gives you power charge, frenzy charge, endurance charge on use. What this helps us to do for bosses is always allows us to have charges even if there's no minions or anything like that for us to gain charges from. The last 2 unique items you need in this build are 2 spreading rot jewels. The first one you'll easily get just a little leveling, and the second one you can either pick up from trade or just level a second character up to X 5 and just grab it from there. It's very easy to get, and you honestly don't need to pay for one. If you have a couple characters by now, you can easily just grab a couple. So it's not difficult, but that's all you need. So in the next portion, I will talk about the skills and what we're going to be doing. So head over there and check the so you guys can check that out. Alright guys, so this portion of the video I'm going to discuss the skills that are involved with our abilities and these nice amount of special skills that are activated by this build. So the first special skill you'll gain from this build is a Summoner Harbinger Focus. So what this Harbinger does is basically a Harbinger pet, one of those guys that's going to follow you around, and what he does while you're channeling is he gives you immunity to stun, immunities to elemental effects, immunities to getting knocked out of your channeling, and just all of those things that would stop you from ever being able to stand there and channel. He gives you immunities to that. However, he's an active skill, so you do have to summon him. You don't have to continuously summon him or anything like that. You just have to summon him the first time when you start things, and then he'll just float around behind you. Be aware, because this is the Harbinger League, he can be a little bit difficult to tell which one is yours. So just be aware. When you're dealing with other Harbingers, he's going to be there as well, and he floats around with you, so it's a little bit weird to look at. The first thing you want to set up on your weapon, because it's easier to set up for as far as links, is a Flame Dash with a faster casting, and then an Enduring Cry. Enduring Cry is used to be able to gain frenzy or endurance charges. We don't have any other form of endurance charge gain besides our Deodri's Flask, so this will be really nice to use, and this setup allows you to just have Enduring Cry there ready and allows you to Flame Dash very quickly. As far as your weapon, you're just going to run a Grace. You're going to run Grace, Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor gives us physical damage reduction as well as fire damage reduction. Grace gives you increased evasion. I am running a light in support, however, it is not necessary to have, though it is nice to have if you have the extra currency for it, or if you picked one up yourself. It's nice to run. It's not necessary for the build though. You're going to be running a Stone Golem. You're going to put this into your Brine Ring, so that'll give you the increased life regen as well as being a level 23 Golem, so gives you a nice amount of life regen from that. You're going to run Essence Drain, so in your body armor, you're going to run Essence Drain, Void Manipulation, Swift Deflection, Decay. For your 4 link, for your 5 link, you're going to add Efficacy, and for your 6 link, you're going to add Controlled Destruction. That is how you want to run those link setups, and that'll give you the best optimal damage for that. Heading into Contagion, you're going to run Contagion on, I specifically run on my helmet, so you're going to run Contagion, Increased Area, Void Manipulation, and Efficacy, and that's your 4 link setup for that. For your Wither Totem, which I run on my boots, you run a Spell Totem with Wither, faster casting, and either increased duration or efficacy, depending on what you want to do. I prefer efficacy because I just got the links for that easier, but it also can be run with increased duration. Either of them work perfectly fine, so it's really up to you and what you get with your links. Now, your Blight is given from your Allopathy Sorcerer's Gloves, and this is a level 22 Blight, so it's stronger, so it's basically a empowered Blight. So it's level 22, that gives you the increased range, increased damage from it. And then you're going to run this setup with a Dark Pact setup, Castle Channeling, so you'll get Castle Channeling, Dark Pact, Void Manipulation, and Efficacy. So that's what you're going to run on your gloves. That's what you're looking for as far as that. So this is everything as far as skills. In the next portion, I will cover the skill tree, the pantheons you want to run, as well as the bandage you want to take. So that will be in the next portion. Alright guys, so for this portion of the video, we're going to discuss our skill tree and how it all lays out and how it all works together. And we're also going to cover ascendancies as well as pantheons as well as the bandits. So I'm going to cover those two first, those three portions first, and then we'll head into the skill tree. The bandits for your bandit choices, you're going to want to take a Lyra. A Lyra offers you mana regen, crit multiplier, and resist. The main reason you need her though is mana regen and resist. Crit multiplier is just a bonus, and it's really not super necessary for the build. You're not really critting a lot, but it's nice to have. But the mana regen is super important. It allows you to be able to infinitely cast Blight as well as ED without any issues from our tree. The next thing you want to cover, I'm going to cover, is ascendancy. So heading into ascendancy, the first ascendancy you want to take, always the first ascendancy so as soon as you kill normal Zaro, is you want to grab Patient Revert. So that gives you 40% increased damage over time. It also gives you increased recovery rate of life, mana, and energy shield if you killed an enemy killed by your damage over time. Since every single thing you do in this build does damage over time, you will literally always have this active as long as you're killing things. The next way I went is up to you, or the next choice you can go is up to you. For me, I chose to go Swift Killer because I was comfortable with this build, and it was destroying things, so I chose to go Swift Killer, which gives you the increased frenzy charges, increased power charges, and it gives you 5% increased damage over time per frenzy charge and power charge. So you'll get a total of 8 power and frenzy charges from these, so that is a total of 40% increased damage over time from the 2 of those while that's active. And this also gives you a nice 15% increased power charge duration and 25% increased power charge duration. So it's nice to have, and it also gives you a little bit more attack speed, so it helps you cast a little bit faster. That's what I chose, but you can also choose Weave the Arcane, which gives you 25% increased mana, 50% increased mana regeneration rate, gives you a 20% chance to recover 10% of maximum mana when you use the skill. It also gives you 8% reduced damage taken for 4 seconds after spending 200% mana. So remember when I said the 40% increased mana cost of skills from APAPs is actually useful to us? This is why. Because you get the damage reduction for 4 seconds every time you spend 200 mana, all of your skills actually have pretty low mana costs in total. So because of that, it helps you get this effect a little bit quicker. So you only have to cast a couple skills, and then you get a nice reduction of damage from Weave the Arcane all the time. So you can either choose to grab this first in your Cruel Lab, or you can grab this first in your Cruel Lab. It's really up to you. For your Merciless Lab, you're definitely going to want to grab whichever one of those you didn't take. And then for your last lab, you're just going to grab Ghost Dance. This gives you a nice amount of dodge chance, dodge to spell chance, and a little bit faster energy shield recharge, as well as some extra movement speed while you're on full energy shield. So it helps you move a little bit faster. It also gives you a little bit more evasion and cast speed, so it's nice to have. So that's everything you want to do as far as your ascendancy. In regards to your Pantheon, you want to run Brine King for your major Pantheon, because Brine King makes you immune to stuns, which is super helpful for our build because we spend a lot of time channeling. You don't want to get stunned while you're channeling. Even with the Harbinger skill, he's not always active, so you want to have the extra defenses anyways. And the last thing you're going to do is, for your Minor God, is going to run Soul of Tukohama. This gives you an increased amount of physical damage reduction as long as you're standing still, and since you're channeling, you're going to be standing still. So that's how you want to run that. So this is the full skill tree. This is the level 100 skill tree, so 121 skill points spent. This gives you a nice 230% increased life from the tree, as well as maxing out your stats and maxing out your cold and lightning reses. However, it doesn't max out your fire res, so you're always going to want to craft a little bit of fire res onto your gear, though this is not too difficult to do. And it's really not a big deal. This gives you a nice amount of life regeneration, which is super necessary to be able to sustain your Castle Channeling skill, and I do not recommend grabbing Castle Channeling until you are able to have all of this life regen from the tree, as well as having your Stone Golem and everything like that, because it will kill you. Darc Pact takes 6% of your life per cast, so if you don't have the regeneration for it, you will not be able to sustain that and you will die. So you're taking in everything from chaos damage all the way from atrophy, and the keynotes you're grabbing are atrophy, growth and decay. You're gonna grab written in blood, nullification, and as you can see, you're gonna run through cold-hearted calculation. All of this life nodes I didn't grab when I was running through my leveling, and I will talk about that in the end. I will show you guys my actual level 71 tree, but this is the full tree and everything involved. The biggest note I want to make is that these two skill gems, your two spreading rots, need to be in these two slots specifically so that they gain the extra chaos damage while using blight, as well as the because these two require 40% intelligence to be in radius, and these are the only two slots in my build that offer that 40% increased intelligence. Now the other two slots can be filled with anything from damage over time to extra life to extra fire res, whatever you have for sockets. And if you don't have either of those, you can actually skip out on these two gems and just grab something else like extra evasion or anything along those lines. But these are what I specifically decided upon and what I chose, because I had a nice jewel that gave me increased damage, increased all attributes, increased cast speed, and increased life. And then I also have one that gives me chaos damage and damage over time. So this is how the full tree spans out. Now I'm going to head into the game and show you guys just me running through just very easy tier 1 map. It is also to show you guys how my tree looks at level 71, and it also shows you how the build works out. So I hope you guys will continue checking on in the build and check that out. Hey guys, so in the beginning of this video I showed you guys a little bit of how this build works and how it all works out together. I was running through a couple of maps that I don't really know, so that's why I struggled with them a little bit, but the build itself definitely cleared all the content. So as you guys saw, even though I derped out a couple times, especially on that diviner's box, shit happens. But so this portion I'm just gonna run through. Just wanted to show you guys my character. I'm currently level 71. I just hit 71, and the reason I powered leveled up to this point is because this is the point when I can wear all of the gear that I specifically wanted for this build. So as you can see, first off, this is what my character currently looks like. As you can see, I have a nice amount of evasion, almost fully capped reses. I will be getting fully capped reses at some point, but right now I don't have fully capped reses. I have a little bit under fire res, but it's not really a big deal, and I can definitely craft some better res onto gear as soon as I get some gear. But so this is how my character currently looks. This is currently my setup. So as you can see, I have Arctic armor, Grace on my wand. I also have an enlightened support. I did not include enlightened support inside of my build, mainly because it's not necessary for the build. Like you don't need the extra mana cost. As you can see, mine is only level 1, so I'm just kind of power leveling it. But it's not necessary for the build. You can definitely run the entire build without a enlightened support, and it'll have no issues. But if you have one, it's just nice to have socketed in for those two, because it'll just give you a little bit more mana to work with. And then we have our Brine Rot Ring, so we get the 25% increased effective buffs granted by my golem skills. And then you get the extra life as energy shield on your golem, and then a +3 to level with active golems. And then it also gives you increased spell damage, which you need for all of our abilities, and then the extra maximum energy shield is just a plus, and then lightning res. Heading up to our helmet, we just have a basic helmet, just a little bit of a nice life roll, some extra life regen, some fire res, and some extra evasion rating. This is probably going to be replaced soon. I probably am going to looking for another piece of gear that'll be better than this, but our setup for this is going to be our contagion setup. For our helmet is our contagion setup with efficacy support, increased area, and then swift affliction, or void manipulation, depending. I probably will switch this to void manipulation. Void manipulation is probably the better in terms of damage, but swift affliction actually just feels better and just gives you better damage over time. whereas Void Manipulation is just a flat amount of damage. So I chose Swift Affliction instead. And then we have our Winter Heart, so increase your rarity of items found. We have a nice amount of dexterity roll on it, a nice life roll, and then a lot of cold res from it, and it cannot be chilled. And then if you ever get frozen, it gives you really high life regen while you're frozen, so it's pretty nice. And then I have our Kikazaru Topaz Ring, so a nice lightning res roll, a nice attribute roll, so it gets a nice amount of all attributes, a nice mana regen roll. The reduction in curses is really helpful, especially because of the flash setup we are using. Having a reduction of curses on me is very nice, especially if I ever run into any curse reflect maps. And then the 1 life regen per second per level is really nice, so I currently am getting 71 life regen per second per level, so that's really nice. And then for our shield, we have our Unshattered Arcane Will. You have a nice elemental res roll, a nice life roll, another elemental roll, or all L res roll, some extra mana gain when you block, and then I have a pretty low increased damage when channeling ability, mainly because I went for the high life roll instead. The extra damage above 50% is just nice anyways, so you can definitely find higher. I think it goes up to like 75%, but I wanted a high life roll as well, so this is what I have currently. And that's what's granting us this cool little Harbinger that's chilling out in the base with us, and as you can see, he's floating around there with my golem. Heading into my chest plate, I have my Restless Ward, so I have a nice increased evasion and energy shield roll, a nice life roll. You can get higher life roll again. The increased movement speed per frenzy charge. I have a pretty low life regenerated roll, but I don't really need as much, to be honest. It goes up to like 25, I believe, but 20% is fine, and it's easier for me in terms of math of it all. So I get three energy charges from this build. So 3 energy charges, 60 life regenerated per second, and then 100% increased duration. So that puts all our charges at over 20 seconds. For frenzy and power charge, it's over 20 seconds, and then for endurance charge, it's 20 seconds. So that's really nice to have. Our 5-link setup for this currently is our Essence Drain. So that's what you want to do. So you have your Essence Drain here with a Swift Affliction, Decay support, Efficacy support, and Void Manipulation. And then whenever you 6-suck at this, you want to throw in Controlled Destruction on there as well for the increased spell damage. Heading over to our gloves, we have our Allopathy Sorcerer gloves, which gives us our level 22 blight, the increased damage over time, and the increased area effect skills, which is super helpful for our build. It also makes it so we can't be hindered, so that's really nice, and it increases the duration of our hinder, which is already doubled anyways, so that's just nice extra. So what you want to run for this is our Castle Channeling, Void Manipulation, Dark Pact, and then Efficacy support. And that's what you run for your glove setup. What am I thinking? Yeah, so this is our pseudo 5/6 link, because I guess it's already a blight skill, augmented from the skill, and then it's a pseudo 6 link because blight is basically given in power because it's level 22, but you know, it's mostly a 5-link, but it's a nice 5-link setup along with a 6-link setup along with our gear. And then for our belt, we're having our Ascent from Flesh, so we have our large amount of invasion, flat energy shield increase, and then a nice amount of all res, and it also gives you phasing when your energy shield restarts, so that's very nice to have, and it's also just a nice way to move around the maps, as you guys saw. And the last thing we have is our spell totem setup, so our Wither totem, which is our Wither with our spell totem, and then we just threw on faster casting and efficacy, so increased damage from that, as well as more damage over time, as well as just giving it a longer duration, so it'll stay there active longer. So that's our gear setup, and then for my life flask, I just have an immediate bleeding flask. Bleeding is really not a big deal with this build. You get a lot of life regen, so it won't even really affect you, but I don't really like to have it, and it stacks up, and it can kill you at some points, especially if it gets really, really high. So like, I always like to keep a nice blade removal flask. Then we have our overflowing chalice, which just increased damage, and then it also allows the main reason for my overflowing chalice is because you gain no charges during the effect of overflowing chalice, but it grants you 100% increased charges gained, which is really nice for these two flasks because they use up a lot of charges very quickly. As this currently has 50% increased charges used, and this has 135% increased charges used. You definitely want to have an overflowing chalice if you're going to use those two in combination, because it allows those to regenerate extremely quickly, and you basically just run through and spam them out. This is extremely easy to get, and they're all easy to get, so it's definitely not a big deal. And this doubles our evasion whenever it's used, so my current 10,000 evasion doubles up to 20,000, so it gives you a really nice amount of dodge chance and everything along those lines. So and then it also gives you the increased damage over time as well as the vulnerability buff. So level 21 vulnerability is always nice to have, which gives you a nice amount of damage increase over time anyways. And then we have, last thing is just Deodri's greater mana flask. The reason for this in combination with our enduring cry is literally just because during boss fights you might not always have a way to generate power or frenzy charges or endurance charges, and our build really benefits from those, so I definitely decided to just grab this flask to be able to get you. The 10% maximum life is not going to affect you at all because you are regenerating life so fast anyways. It's not really going to feel that bad just to lose it for a split second, and since you already over regenerate enough health to sustain the damage from casting Darc Pact, which is 6% of your health, since you already are able to sustain that, once you pop a Deodri's flask, you'll also get the frenzy charges, and you'll be able to sustain that extremely easily. So that's everything that I'm currently running. I'm gonna hop into a I'm just gonna do a quick channel map or something. Actually, yeah, I'm just gonna do a quick I'll do a quick tier 1 map. Do a tier 1 map.
Learn anything new.
Yeah, there's a tier 1 jungle map. I don't much care about examining it. So this is just going to be a basic rundown so you guys can see how I play the build and how it works out together and how it all plays together. I'm just going to run through everything involved with it. So the first thing you want to do is make sure all your buffs are up. So make sure your Harbinger is out because he offers this skill, which is Summoner Harbinger Focus. It gives you an immunity to damage. It gives you a damage reduction buff as well as making you avoid stuns and ailments. So that's really nice because when you're channeling, if you get stunned, then you stop doing damage. So you definitely don't want to allow that to happen. So make sure he's out. Make sure your Golem's out because he gives you a nice amount of life regen. And he also tanks stuff, and he has a pretty big health pool. So make sure he's out. Make sure your Arctic armor is up. This gives you less physical damage taken when hit, as well as some less fire damage since I don't have cap fire res. And this build does offer a little bit lesser fire res from the tree, even though it does offer capped lightning and cold res. The fire res is a little bit lower, so I was running Arctic armor. And then the last thing you just want to do is grace, so you have an increased evasion from that. So that's the buffs you want to make sure you have up. Now this playstyle can be played 2 different ways. What the hell? Okay. Can you chill out? I'm trying to talk here, guys. Thank you. So this playstyle can be played 2 different. Oh, there's a harp there. That's why. This playstyle can be played 2 different ways. In that you can play it just like an Essence Drain build. Essence Drain build, so that'll definitely have enough damage to kill everything relatively calmly. And then you can play it in my player style, which is to dash in and just cast my channeling. Both ways work. and both ways are effective clear, though it really just comes down to what you're fighting. I wanted to make a more flexible build because some bosses I have difficulty fighting melee builds and they're just not melee friendly. And some bosses are a little bit easier to face tank and stuff like that. So being able to get in there and do a lot of damage easy. So it gives you a lot of augmented damage. Ooh, nice Harbinger drop. So that's how the playstyles can work. So it's a nice dual playstyle for you. It gives you a nice amount of damage, a really easy clear, as you can see. I am a little bit over level as always, you know, this is level 68, tier 1 maps, and I'm level 71, so that's when you first get access to using your Hungering Ward, so I wanted to show off the build with that on. This is how it all really works together. It clears very well, it clears very easily, as Essence Drain just has a very easy clear in general, and it just has no issues getting through content. I will say leveling was a little bit difficult, mainly because of the time it takes to get access to all of your skills together. All of the uniques tie together very well, so you start out without quite a few of your damage ones, and you don't get those till later. So, and for my tree, and when I ran the tree in particular, I didn't actually scale that heavily into a lot of my damage early. Instead, I just went and grabbed a lot of my stat points and everything like that. So all my resistance stat points and everything like that. And I kind of skipped over a lot of the life from the tree, a lot of the damage from the tree and stuff like that, in terms of just quickly spanning through the tree. I'll show you guys that at the end of this run. I'll show you what my tree currently looks like, and everything involved with it, but it was relatively simple. I just had a very low health pool when I was leveling, and if you're doing this like on a hardcore build, you'll definitely want to take advantage of the extra life nodes. And if you're just playing normally, you might want, depending on your comfort level, you'll definitely be able to grab more health nodes. I definitely just skipped around a lot of the health because the build started feeling very comfortable to play, and Essence Drain clears very easily, so I didn't feel at too much danger. I will say I did have a little bit of issues getting under-leveled early, but that was mainly because I just wasn't paying attention to the actual levels themselves, and I ended up just kind of blazing through everything really fast and didn't pay attention. So definitely be aware of that, and that you can easily become over-leveled or under-leveled because of how quickly this clears through content. So make sure you're farming and keeping up to the level of areas, and make sure you're picking up gear. I also ran through this without actually picking up gear or anything like that. But real quick, I want to talk about for bosses, because bosses are going to die so quickly. Ooh, a nice ash color. Bosses die very quickly with this build because of how it works all together. So what you want to do for bosses is, at the start, you want to drop your Wither Totem. My Wither Totem currently stays active for 9 seconds. If you're running this, you can run this actually two ways. You can run efficacy support, or you can choose to run a increased duration, which makes your totem last a little bit longer than efficacy support. Though my efficacy support is only level 11 for this one, as far as opposed to my level 17 one, so that's a little bit different. But the first thing you want to do is drop your Wither Totem, and then you want to throw out an Essence Drain onto the boss, and then you want to start your channeling. So what Essence Drain does, and why I use it in this build, is that it does the initial damage, and then it also heals you for a large amount of that damage over time. The reason I'm running Decay on this instead of just running another increase to chaos damage or something like that, is because Decay offers a flat amount of chaos damage. So the way this build works is that it augments all of the chaos damage you do using Blight, because of these two gems, which is your two Spreading Rot gems. I have really high rolls on them because I just ran through and leveled twice. I ran through it, leveled a bunch of times anyways from all the characters I've run, so I picked up some really nice rolls. Typically you'll get a roll like around 7 or 8% increased chaos damage, but I have nice 13 and 12%, so that's really nice. So I get 25% increased chaos damage from those. And then with these 2 jewels allow you to do that anything that's hit by blight and hindered by blight gets increased of 25% chaos damage. So when you run 2, you get 50% increased chaos damage from that. And then it's 100% increased hinder duration. So these 2 jewels give you the basically for me they give me 75% increased chaos damage. That's why I didn't spec into my chaos damage originally. I instead just grabbed these 2 gem sockets because this automatically gives you the flat damage anyways. They need to be, one thing for my build, they need to be in these 2 gem sockets specifically because they need to be able to get the 40 intelligence, and that's going to be grabbed only in these 2 gem sockets. These other 2 gem sockets are basically just I have a chaos damage and damage over time gem, and then I have really nice damage all attributes, cast speed, and max life. So these are flexible. You can run like anything from res to cast speed to damage to attributes to max life. You can run anything you need in these 2 gem sockets, but these 2 specifically require you to have the these 2 specifically require the spreading rod jewel. So this is what my tree currently looks like at 71. As you can see, I skipped a lot of my health. So my tree over here is life, tree over here is life, this is life, this is life, this is life, and this is life. So as you can see, I skipped a lot of my life and just made sure to spread out and be able to get to everything I need. So all my life regen, all my spell damage, all my chaos damage, all my jewel sockets, everything like that I grabbed early, and I'll be able to just pick up a ton of health as I go through leveling maps and stuff like that. So I hope this guide was helpful to you guys. I hope you guys check out my build, and I hope you guys play it. Be sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the description below, and I'll catch you guys later. Nuie out.